There we go. Now it's official. We are recording. So greeting once again. You have Professor Derek Allen, former commissioner. And what we are doing is going over the expectations in a general form of standards for the self-study. So far we have completed session 1, which we went through standards 1, 2, and 3. And then we have done session 2, which we did sessions 4 and 5 only. And today we're going to do session 3, which we will get through 6, 7, 8, and 9, and only because these are not process items. These are items, if you will, you either have them or you don't, or people either complain about these or they don't. But before I begin, and some of you have already been privy to it, is I actually did another presentation on how to connect the dots between curriculum and assessment. And I will repeat that. I came in on Sunday because I had so many questions about curriculum and assessment. I mean, it was a lot. And so it just prompted me to do an additional presentation that I recorded. And I did send it to ACPHA. And so they have it. And it's just called Connecting the Curriculum to Assessment. It's what it's called. So if you want me to send to you directly, at the end of this today, you can send me an email and I will promptly send you that recording. Some of you have emailed me about some of the documents that I showed last time. I will send them to you, and I'll send them to you in a Word format. And you, like I said, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just don't. The only thing I will not send is a self-study, because I think that's institutional property. Once that is developed and sent, and there's kind of like some privacy things in there, but as far as the things that I've developed, such as a plan and that sort of thing, you're privy to that, and that way you can actually have in your hands a blueprint of how to do one for yourself. And because all institutions are going to require different things, as far as from an institutional standpoint, as far as even from a state standpoint. So I know that you won't be able to use the plan apples to apples, but at least it gives you a great starting point, or a launching or a springboard for you to be able to connect your strategic plan and your curriculum to your assessment items. So like I said, if you would like a copy of that, all you have to do is just send me an email at the conclusion of today's presentation, and I will gladly send that to you between now and Friday. So let us begin. So let me pull you up. And there we go. Share screen. And we're on. So today, in terms of that brief recap on standard 4 and standard 5, as I noted before already, is I did a additional presentation called Connecting the Curriculum to Assessment. And if you want a copy of that, I will send it to you. It's probably about 35 to 40 minutes. And I go through a lot of different document sharing through that. And if you want a copy of any of those documents, I will send you a copy of those documents. But 4 was curriculum and standard 5 was assessment. So today we're going to go through standard 6, 7, 8, and 9 today is what we're going to do. So standard 6 is about instructional resources. And these are some items, or what I like to say, either you have these things or you don't have these things. There's not a lot of process that goes into these next 4 standards. And so 6A asks, the program maintains sufficient full-time and part-time faculty to achieve the objectives of the program, including instruction, advisement, academic planning, and also curricular development. Well, what does that mean? That means that you have enough staff, faculty, to do the teaching aspect, but also the non-teaching duties. And so here, your handbook about instruction is helpful. In our handbook, it tells us in terms of or gives us some examples of what a good mix of student-teacher ratio is, and also what a good mix of administrative duties and teaching duties is. And that's notated in our handbook. And I see that some of you are shaking your head, meaning it's probably notated in your handbooks too. So when we look at that, ACPHA also has a form that they ask for you to fill out, and it's in resources. And it's the faculty resources. And it asks you about the faculty and how many full-time faculty you have, how many adjunct faculty you have, the administrative staff that you have, and all that should be documented in the report. Now, there's going to be questions that are going to be asked. So the report may look fine, but a lot of times the evidence really is backed up by the faculty in that department. Because sometimes we've seen where on paper, it seemed like there was a great mix of student-faculty ratio and that there was enough faculty to be able to do the work of the department, et cetera. But then once we start talking and asking questions of the faculty, then the faculty say they need another full-time faculty member. And they say that they can't get these items done. That, excuse me, that through conversations with the program, they can't get curriculum done. Or they have too many individuals that they have to advise and they can't get curriculum done. So what we're saying is in this section, and this is a self-study, remember this, that this should show you whether you have the right balance, is what this section should demonstrate to any person that is doing a site evaluation of your program. Is there a right balance? And then is that right balance that we see in the document, is that going to match up when we talk to students and when we talk to faculty and staff and when we talk to the dean, et cetera? Section B, the preparation and qualifications of all members of the instructional staff are suited to the field and level of their assignments. So resumes or VITAs, this is how we will know whether it's appropriate. And then I guess really what I'm looking for is that just looking for the extensive, industry and professional experience. And is that extensive professional and extensive experience, is it tied to the courses that the individual teaches? And that's all we're looking for here. C, professional, clerical, and paraprofessional staff members are available and adequate to assist instructional faculty in the materials of preparation, supervision, tutoring, and other general tasks. So for some programs, such as myself included, we have culinary, we have baking, but we also have hospitality programs as well. So we also have an individual that is a kitchen manager. So our kitchen manager does all the procurement, and they also run the dining room for our facility too as well, because there's no way that the faculty could do it all. But then we also have an administrative assistant, and that administrative assistant helps us, excuse me, with a lot of different non-teaching tasks. So we look at that balance again. For D, conditions of service, including appointment, promotion, salary, workload, etc., are equitable and administered ethically. Well, in this particular case, we're definitely looking at handbook. And so we're looking, key points referring to different duties and responsibilities. How does a person get tenured? How does a person get promoted? What is the workload, the salary, all those things being defined normally right straight from your faculty handbook. But then, as we also said, there's going to be conversations with the faculty, and there's going to be conversations with the dean and also with the provost specifically about D. And just to ensure that they all line up. Or should I say that they're all in alignment? (6E), the faculty is substantially involved in curricular development and evaluation and in the formulation of academic policies and practices. Once again, handbook and what's happening in the department, does it align with the policies and practices of the college or the state? But then also meeting minutes from advisory board and also meeting minutes from faculty meetings should also demonstrate how substantially involved in the curricular development and evaluation. That's also evidence. And then what is the process for curricular changes? Now we have a curriculum committee, so everything that we do and we want to make changes to our curriculum, we're heavily involved in it from a pragmatic standpoint, but then it also has to get vetted and approved through the dean, through the curriculum committee, and also up through the provost level. For F, mechanisms are in place and regularly utilized for evaluating full and part-time faculty teaching effectiveness. So here, we just want to know what is the mechanism that is in place for evaluation. Now, I will tell you, full disclosure, that when we did, our self-study, since we just did it recently, I actually gave copies, excuse me, to the site team of my evaluation. So as a chairperson, the dean actually comes once a year, not once a semester, but once a year, to evaluate my teaching effectiveness in the classroom. My dean does that. And then I get a copy, and the dean keeps the original copy. I myself, as the chair, I evaluate the full-time faculty. But then the full-time faculty actually go into the classroom and they evaluate the adjunct faculty. But we all use the same form. So everyone is getting evaluated. Now, this is something that we've argued at my college for years. And that is, the chairperson cannot see student evaluations of a particular faculty member. They do not allow. Faculty Senate will not allow. Chairs have fought for it, but they will not allow that. So if the faculty member wants to share their student evaluations with me, they can. If they don't want to share, they don't have to. Now, I have a pretty good rapport with my faculty, and they often do share. But that's going to depend on the policies and practices, though, of your college. Now, here's another point. My college also has what is known as a meritorious teaching system, where those that are above their peers in rank and also in teaching effectiveness, they can get a bonus. But in order to get that bonus, you have to show full disclosure of the comments that students said about your teaching, and you also have to show the full evaluations of those courses. So that's another mechanism to show effectiveness of teaching. G, members of the faculty, full-time and part-time, demonstrate continuous professional growth, productivity, and enhancement of experience in their areas of expertise. So professional development. And here what we're looking for is proof of professional development. Now we developed a form. So I mean, you can use this form if you like, if you don't have a form, but we actually have a professional development form that I have our faculty fill out every year. And what it does, it shows me in terms of their professional growth from one year to the next. And we look at this and we get money, extra money from our college by showing, especially if I see in a specific area of my evaluation, and that is further correlated with student evaluations where I see where a person needs additional training in that area. And when I can correlate that data of my evaluation and student evaluations, the college will give us more money to send a faculty person to get more professional growth in that particular area. And it's a pretty cool system. And then there's evidence that the professional development of the faculty, full and part-time, is encouraged, supported, and evaluated. It is evaluated on our, what is known as FPR, which that is our form of evaluation. And therefore, anytime we do professional development, you can't just say that you went to a conference on X. You have to say what conference you went to, what you learned, and how you are utilizing that in the classroom, or how you are utilizing that in the lab. And that is supported not only from a departmental standpoint, because I'm privy to get a departmental budget for external travel, but then we also have what is known as a CTL here at my college, which is a Center for Teaching and Learning. And they can give up to $1,500 to a person that needs some type of training that is outside the training that they do. So they do training on assessment. They do training on teaching effectiveness, but they don't do training on, let's say, garde-manger on turning a watermelon into a turtle. And I need for a faculty member to be able to have that skill. So, and they'll say, no, we can't do that one. They need to go to the ACF conference and we'll pay the money for them to go to the ACF conference to be able to learn to do that skill. And they do that. And that's 6. So I'll take a pause from there, and I'll stop share. Any questions, comments? Oh man, we had all these people still here in the waiting room. Sorry. Admit all. There we go. So any comments or questions, etc., from section 6? And I know some of you just came in, so I'm sorry that I did not catch you, but remember, you will have full access to the recordings. So anything that you have missed, if you just say, hey, can you send it to me? I'll send it to you directly. But ACPHA is also going to be putting these up on their websites. And also for those that just came in, I wanted to make sure that you understood that I did an additional recording on connecting the dots between section 4, which is on curriculum, and section 5, which is on assessment. And if you would like a copy of that recording, all you have to do is just send me an email and I'll send it out as soon as possible.
I was just going to ask, how do we get that? So thank you for that.
You're very welcome. You're welcome. Is it required to have an advisory board? Wait a second. Let me go to that. Things in the chat. It's okay about being late. Fine with that. We're all busy these days. Is it required to have an advisory board and the frequency of meetings of that advisory board? Yes, it is required of you to have an advisory committee. It is. And the frequency is usually just twice a year. And I'll give you an example. Our advisory committee will meet in the fall, because we have a meeting next week. And then we'll also meet actually it's the second meeting we're having. So we're meeting next week. But then that's because Aramark wants to do some things with our culinary program, and we just need to see whether we're going to vote on that, yes or no. But it's no here nor there. But anyway, we meet in the fall, we meet in the spring. Now the ad hoc committees, they might meet more than that. But because right now, what we're trying to do right now is we're trying to help with supplying our students to get positions at all of these different places in our area that need help. We have so many hotels and so many restaurants and so many bakeries, et cetera, that need help, and they cannot find great or good employees. Can we get your email address again? No, I've given it 15 times already. No, I'm teasing with you. Yes. My email, actually what I'll do right now is I'll put it in the chat. So what I'll do, so I'll go ahead and put it in the chat right now. So you should be seeing it in the chat. So I just put it up in the chat. And actually, you know what? That went to a direct message. Let me send this to everyone, because that was actually a reply. Copy, paste. There we go. Now everyone should be able to see it. All right, we're going to move on to 7. Student support services. So accurate and clearly stated information about admission, progression, retention, dismissal, excuse me, and graduation requirements is available in written form and online. These requirements meet or exceed the minimum standards of the parent institution. So, describe how the program communicates to its students concerning its academic policies and procedures. This would include information about the program's admission, progression, retention, dismissal, and graduation requirements. Now, for us, it's in written form and it's also online. There is a document package. Now, because we had to think about this. We're like, look, our college is asking us to be sustainable, but also this is supposed to be in written form. But it didn't say how many copies you had to have. So all of this is on our bulletin board. And we have a bulletin board that's right outside of our office. And there's quadrants. There's 6 quadrants on this. I mean, it's a huge bulletin board. And there's 6 quadrants. And so everything about these procedures, academic policies, program admissions, progression, retention, dismiss, all of that is on that bulletin board. So it is in print form. Describe, if applicable, the program's policies and procedures governing the number of hours a student can receive credit for activities outside the classroom, such as life experience, field work, directed work, etc. Excuse me. So that's going to depend on each college and their policies. For us, you can do up to 9 credits. That's it. So therefore, we have a system, and it's a course. And within this course that a person takes is they can do a portfolio. So let's say, for instance, a person was a manager at a particular restaurant, and one of the things that they did was menus. So we have a menu development course. So therefore, they're telling me that they don't want to take this course. They want to get portfolio credit for this particular class. So they write a portfolio on meeting the course objectives in terms of their portfolio and their current experience. So they can do up to 9 credit hours. Now, this portfolio course, it's only 3 credit hours. Now, we have something called articulated credit. So if a person comes in to our college and they already have taken the ServSafe Manager certification and they passed it, then they have to upload that online. And if they already have it, they passed it, then they don't have to take HMT 1107. So that is another way that they can get credit for life experience. But we only allow up to 9 credits for life experience. That's it. So other colleges may do it differently. Other colleges may be a little bit above that because maybe you're a 4-year program, or you may be a little bit under that, even though you're a 2-year program. But ours is 9. And that's all you can bring in for field experience. And normally, for all of these, you can give links in your document. You can also write them out where students actually can locate where these such policies are located, but then you can also give direct links in your self-study. B, transfer credit is granted for courses taken at another institution only when the coursework and the level of the transfer applicant's achievement permits the student to complete satisfactorily the remaining upper division professional coursework. So really what we're looking for is, what is the policy? What is your college's policy? And then just describe the program's transfer or change of major policies and practices from both within the institution and from another institution. So a lot of times from here, they're talking to academic advisors to get also evidence. And then, here we're talking to the registrar to get certain items. Might be talking to internship coordinator to get certain items here and back in A. C, opportunities for appropriate and confidential academic advising and counseling are available to all students. Describe your process. The one thing that I have not mentioned is, remember, all of this stuff that I'm telling you is in generality form because ACPHA is not prescriptive. We do not tell you that this is what you must have and you must have it this way. We're not prescriptive. And so these opportunities for appropriate and confidential academic advising, you want to write this out and spell this out and be detailed as possible in your self-study. Now, ACPHA is going to want to speak with students about academic advising. They'll probably speak to the dean about academic advising. They'll speak to faculty about academic advising because some of the faculty actually do academic advising. But then some colleges, faculty don't do academic advising. They have academic advisors that do that. And so things such as workload. I remember going on one site visit and I was like, wow, that is a huge workload. 700? I was like, wow, 700 students per advisor. That's a lot. That is a lot. Not 200, 700 on one institution that we went to. And I'm not going to say what that institution was, but I was like, wow. D, opportunities exist for students to receive exposure to career preparation services. So we will want to talk to someone in your career planning and placement or your career services offices. Our office is not called career services. It's actually called student and community engagement is what our office is called now. And so, it kind of can get confusing because students are looking for a career office. And that's where they do all of this, where we describe the efforts of the program to enable the student to develop an awareness of the values and norms of the industry, discuss any career symposiums, because that particular office that I named, they actually host a job fair every year, discuss whether there's career advisement and placement center. So also some of this stuff is done during the internship process too as well. In the internship process, the internship coordinator does a mock interview for every student that is going to do an internship. They have to do it. It's kind of like on our check sheet, period. They have to vet their resume. They have to vet their cover letter. So all these things have to be vetted through career services, if you will. And I'll just use that term because that's what most are named. They have to be vetted. And so therefore, ACPHA will want to speak with and also see just the document of who reports to who's over these particular areas, and how do they serve students. For E, effective procedures exist to ensure the reasonable progress of students towards meeting stated graduation requirements. So describe the policies and procedures for developing and maintaining satisfactory records for each student in the program. So for this one, excuse me, it's done in a systematic process. And there's a chairs report. And for us, this chairs report, I can run a student report of all HMT students. And I love it because it's got a color-coded system. The individuals in orange and the individuals in red, those are the ones that I'm concerned about. Because the individuals that are in orange and the individuals that are in red, those are the individuals that the system is telling me they're reaching out for help, even though they're not reaching out for help. Now, there's also a school policy that says that a student has to maintain a 2.0 in the as an overall GPA, and they have to have a 2.25 in their specific major is the minimum here at my institution. And so, but there's procedures for that, and it's located in the student handbook, and it's also located in the college catalog. So there was links when we did the report on this. We put links that where a person could directly go to the link and they could see those. But then we also let them know how we communicate this information to students. We have an orientation, and our orientation is mandatory. Now, do some students bypass it because of this happened, because that happened? Yes. However, even though you might have missed, your name shows up on a list. And then we just give you a packet. And then you have to sign that you're going to read this material. And just a one pager that you are going to read policies and procedures here in forth for the HMT department of St. Clair College. And all this stuff is in there. Yeah, the program maintains an active website that contains updated information, including the program overview, mission and learning outcomes, professional placement, and student retention data, as reported to ACPHA annually, faculty profiles, curricular offerings, and academic policies, and clear direct links to these informational items should reside on the program landing page. So that means this. If it's not on your landing page, there needs to be a link on your landing page to these items. Stop share for a moment, and I'll give you an example. So here on the HMT website, HMT Sinclair. So this is all we're saying. No, that's the courses. So all we're saying is this, is that there has to be, it either falls on the landing page itself, the data, graduation certificates, retention data, all that. So it either falls on it, or there should be links on the landing page. Like, here's a link for faculty and staff listing supplies that they need, program learning outcomes, mission, lab fees. So here's direct links. Okay. And that's all, and that's all they're telling us in that. We'll go back to our slideshow. Excuse me. So G, support services are available for traditional students, non-traditional students, special needs students, international students, and online students. So every college is different. So I'll just give you an example of what was in our report. We actually have a eLearn support center. And what eLearn is, it's just Blackboard, but we call it eLearn. And that eLearn support center is designed only for online students taking online classes. We have an international student office. So within the international student office, and I'll give you an example, we had over 100 Saudi Arabian students over a 3-year period come through a program called the SACM program. And they wanted to learn hospitality because of the growth of tourism in Dubai. And so they came here to study. And with them coming here to study, we had to give, say, for instance, we couldn't allow, if they were taking a computer-generated test, we did not allow for these students to actually go back and forth from computer screen to computer screen. We actually ordered dictionaries from Saudi Arabia translation to American and American to Saudi Arabian. But then we also have an office called the accessibility office. They don't call it disability office anymore. It's accessibility office, which handles for special needs. But then we also have, it's known as a student support office, where you have tutoring, counseling, religious counseling, and all that is housed in there. So there was 4 different offices I had to mention that was going to meet or support all the services that were provided for students on the campus. You all may have a one-stop shop. Just notate it. How are you supporting students? Eight, physical and learning resources. With physical and learning resources, the program has access to appropriate physical resources for in-person, hybrid, and online programming, such as classroom space, office space, and facilities, equipment, and technology. And so therefore, in our report, we had some pictures of our classrooms, and our lab spaces were notated in the report. Excuse me. And also descriptions. And so this is one of those things, do you have sufficient classroom space? What's in the classroom? Do you have smart boards in the classrooms, or are there still chalkboards in the classrooms? Do you have video projectors in the classrooms? Are there computers in the classrooms? etc. So we want to know that. The program has access to appropriate resources and support for online, distance, virtual programming, such as equipment, technology, and broadband access in order to satisfactorily meet the program's mission and learning outcomes. Yes, students can actually check out computers. If a student does not have internet access, we actually have a program. Well, I don't want to say we still have the program. I know during COVID, we had a program with Spectrum, and I do not know how it worked, but a student could go there and they could actually get access to coming, Kathleen, in just a moment, and a student could actually get access to the internet through some type of relationship that Sinclair had with the local Spectrum here at our school. Talk to me, Kathleen.
Could you forward the slide to the next one, to number 8, the one you're talking about?
Oh, it didn't.
No, it still is on 7.
All right, let me go to new share there. Yes, you're right. It is still on 7, and I'm over here.
That's okay.
All right. Is it there now?
Yes, we can
Okay.
see.
All right, cool. Thank you. And so how is that being met? And so you just want to describe it. And then C, the library access system, including technical and non-technical reference materials, books, journals, and databases, is easily accessible and reflects the current needs of not only in-person and online students, but also faculty in meeting the program's mission and outcomes. And so we have some research assignments that we specifically use. And I actually took this from another college. I can't remember what college I took it from, but they had these things called lib guides. And these lib guides were let me do this here because it keeps going out. There we go. They actually had these lib guides. And these lib guides were so cool to me because they had culinary lib guides, they had meeting and event planning lib guides, they had baking and pastry lib guides, and these were all reference materials that were slated directly for those specific majors. And it was actually kind of broken down by courses. Like we have purchasing in our program. So then there were references for purchasing. There might have been references for cost control. So there might have been references for food cost accounting. I mean, it was pretty cool the way that they did those. So I took that idea and we ran with it. And now we have lib guides too as well. And so these lib guides can be found, guess where? In the eLearn course system. So it's right there. So it doesn't matter what class you're in, it's automatically populated and generated for HMT courses. And it's always at the bottom. And anytime a student has a research assignment, they can go right to those lib guides. And they can also go to the and on the lib guides, it actually has the reference sections, which is in the 600s. They also have the reference sections where students can actually check out the books right there in the library. It's pretty cool. And I want to make sure, did it switch? Okay, cool. And then the last one, 9, financial resources. So there's an A and B section there, and that's financial resources are sufficient to support the educational objectives and meet the contractual obligations. We do have some contracts that we have, and our contract actually is with Cisco, and then we also have a contract too with GFS. And so, do we have enough money in the budget to actually support those systems? And so I have to describe that in the report, and also give an overview of our financial status and what we receive. And I actually do a 3-year outlook. So I show and demonstrate what we had 2 years prior, and then what we also have in the current year. And then I also show what percentage of increase or what percentage of decrease that was received during these years. Now, during COVID, received a little bit of decrease during COVID, but then post-COVID, we started to get our increases back again. But this is just where we're going to discuss, were there any current, significant financial problems that will affect the program's ability to achieve its mission and outcomes over the next 5 years. And then the commentary should identify any assumptions such as enrollment trends, retention rates, consolidation of programs, and other significant factors on which expectations are based. So here we are really just describing, what is becoming of the industry. And I'm starting to see a lot now, especially in the lodging industry. The lodging industry is really taking particular interest into robots that come to cater or butler service to rooms. And that is increasingly more and more and more and more. And so, the typical house person's position is kind of becoming, eliminated in those that have the money to be able to use this particular technology and resource. In the particular restaurant industry, and what I'm seeing now is, especially at McDonald's, is where I'm starting to see them more. I'm starting to see this big robot arm in the back, and this big robot arm in the back is actually cooking the hamburgers, and it is cooking each hamburger exactly the same each time. It is. And so, when we start to look at these particular trends, especially with artificial intelligence, already here, it's not knocking on the door anymore. It's already here. How are, some of those types of trends, how would they, possibly affect, the dollars that a program is receiving or the enrollment that a program has? So these are all things that we should be looking at. So I'll leave this up here for a moment, but I'll take any questions that you might have. And if you've called me, because I know I was in Sunday and I didn't have a single voicemail. And today I came in because I was out yesterday, still battling with that daggone cold, and I was out Monday, still battling with that cold. And today I have 12 voicemails. So if you called me, I promise I will call you back between today and tomorrow, because I feel much better and I'm finally at the tail end of this thing here. So I will take any questions that you might have about any of the items. Oh, and before I do, I wanted to stress this. In every section that we have discussed, they have strengths and they also have weaknesses. It's okay to notate them. It's okay to notate them. You're not bragging if it's true. Okay. Highlight what you're doing really well in and what you feel you're really doing well in. But also give a glimpse of what I like to call improvement areas, not weaknesses, but improvement areas. Give a glimpse of what you think needs to be improved and why it should be improved. Because a lot of times, and what I've seen is that ACPHA can actually sometimes help in the process when we are writing our reports, especially when you're having administrative battles. Because a lot of times, some administrators don't really understand, or they don't get it, why we might need a significant reservation system for students to be able to do mock reservations, even though we're not a what I want to call it, as our college calls it, top 25 program. And this is what a top 25 program is. Like English. English is the top 25 program. Why? Because everybody has to take English. So that means because everybody has to take English, that means you're going to have way more course sections than I will in my typical tourism course, where I might have 8, 10, 15, but the system that I need to use might cost us on the initial, it might cost us $20,000 for the initial system, and then it might cost me an additional $1,500 per month to run this particular, not per month, I'm sorry, per year to run this particular system. And it may cost that. So therefore, they don't get why we need that. They're always just looking at, this per capita, per seat, and number of FTEs versus what the students really need in terms of for their craft. So ACPHA might be able to be instrumental in bridging the gap of language and communication to upper administration. So questions that you all might have. Derek, another brand form session. Does ACPHA have a policy on the courses offered via distance learning? No, we do not have a policy of the courses offered distance learning. No, we do not. Because you can have all your classes face to face, and if it is a online, if it is a online degree, then therefore it just has to meet where introduction, where something's going to be emphasized, where it's going to be reinforced, etc. So there does not have a policy, because there are online degree programs and there are face-to-face programs, and then there are blended programs. So no formal policy there. Thank you for the question. Any other questions that you might have?
So I had another question.
Mm-hmm.
Since we missed the first session, when is that going to be available online, and where will it be online?
This is my assumption here. My assumption is ACPHA is going to put it on their website.
Right.
And I'm assuming that they're going to put all 4 on there once we're done with the 4th one. But if you want it quicker than that, send me an email, and I've been sending them out, the last couple of days, sending all the items.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. And then like I said, if anybody wants that additional one, connecting the dots, just send me an email, and I'll send it right to you, because I think probably that's going to help a lot, because as I said, 4 and 5 are the areas where we see the most non-compliance, or where we see the most concerns, sections 4 and 5. And it's not that a particular institution doesn't want to do it. I just think that particular institution doesn't understand all the time. And I go specifically on how much time it's going to take you to actually put this process in order in that complimentary extra recording that I did. So if you want a copy of that, all you gotta do, send me an email, and I'll send you the link to where you can get the copy of that, because it's not a one semester deal to be able to connect all of that. It is not. But it doesn't mean, though, that you can't meet the standard. But in meeting that particular standard, ACPHA may ask for some items for the next X amount of years in your annual report to make sure, because you might have, let's say, for instance, in place a system for assessment, but you haven't assessed anything yet, but you got the system there. Okay. And so we understand that it's going to take time for you to get data. Okay, we understand that. So it may come up as a concern because there is no data, but depending on how extensive the program is on the assessment, it might not be a concern, but it also might be something that you're going to be required to give over the next 2 years in the annual report for ACPHA. So a lot of times, it's not a apples to apples or oranges to oranges. It really depends on different factors. Like there might be a program that has a assessment plan in place, but it's not a real extensive program to where we're going to see from soup to nuts. But then you have a program that has one that's in place, and we can see there's dates, there are going to be deliverables, there are going to be checkpoints along the way, and the dean is involved, the provost involved, etc. That program might not get a concern versus the other program getting a concern. So, well, listen, I've had a great time. I have. Next time we're going to discuss what happens in the post process, and what happens, if you get concerns, and what happens, how should you address them? And that's huge, because I've seen, some that give us information addressing a concern, but it's just information. It doesn't tell us anything. It doesn't give us a story. And so you don't want the commission to have to make an assumption, about seeing something. You want to be very specific, very direct. And that's what we are going to be talking about. So it says we are planning to start our self-study in January 2024 for a visit in spring of 2025. Suspect that is a good timeline. I suspect that is a very excellent timeline. like I said, at the very minimum, 9 months. She's been at least one month a section at the very minimum, about 1 month a section. And the reason why, especially if the section is going to have multiple departments. So if you're not doing all of the advising, that means that you need to get information from advising as well. But you also need to get information from a student's perspective of advising as well. Faculty members' perspective of advising as well, dean's perspective of advising as well, to all go into this particular report. Because you want everyone that's involved to be involved in the self-study. Well, all right. If you need anything, let me know, and I'll send it between now and Friday. But yes, I know I coughed a little bit during this presentation, but I feel much better. Okay, I do. So I am back. Your hostess with the mostest, your man of the hour, who always believes knowledge is power, Professor Derek Allen, and past ACPHA Commissioner, signing out. Have a good one.